Hey everyone, welcome back to the Contractor Growth Network Podcast. Today, first off, I'm Logan Shinholster, but today I have on Devon Vought, who is the owner of Vought Construction. And the reason I have Devon on here is we actually built Devon's website about a year and a half ago at this point, but Devon's out in the Berkeley, California area, and the type of work that he does is far and away some of the most luxurious projects that we had out of all of our clients, where he's charging, for new homes anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 a square foot, renovations $2,000 a square foot. So it's this ultra luxury market. But what's cool about Devon is he's not like most people that are older in this market where they're 60, 65 years old and they've just been slowly working their way up. Devon's a lot younger. So we figured this would be a hell of a podcast to come in and have Devon talk about what they do over there to make sure that somebody that looks and acts like Devon is able to stay in this market. So Devon, how'd I do on that intro?
Great. Yeah. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for that.
Good. Well, I appreciate that. So what I'd love for you to do, if you don't mind, just kick off with a little bit of like a backstory of Devon and Vought Construction, just so we have a little bit more context around who you are and why we should be listening to you.
Vought Construction, founded in 2010. I just kind of fell into the trades, didn't do great in school, but ended up getting licensed in 2013 at 22 years old, one of the youngest here in California. And I just slowly grew the business. I say slowly, but over the last 10 plus years, it's grown into luxury home building company that really provides just impeccable service. That's what we focus on most. We like to say that anybody can swing a hammer, but it's providing that experience is what we're all about.
And let's talk about some of your projects that you've done. Like I know on one of the feature project pages that we have on your website, they have like a music studio. Like these are not just very simple, high-end stuff. These are also quite intricate projects. So can you talk a bit more about some of the work that you do, just again, so when we talk about, when we say the words like luxury, what that actually means?
Yeah, our niche is hillside luxury. So we get called for the more difficult projects that are on like 45-degree hills. And they will have, like you said, a music studio. That house was actually just featured on the AIA home tours. We got an award for that house. And so that was kind of a big thing last year. But the homes all have elevators, big curtain, glass sliding windows and doors, great views. We're here in the Bay Area, so all the houses I build pretty much have a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. It's just lots of high-end finishes.
So when you started back, at this point, 12, 13 years ago, did you just go from never been in the trades to now I'm doing $4 million homes, or was there like a progression around this?
It's definitely a progression, and a lot of mistakes and a lot of redoing and learning. But I started out as a handyman. I was helping realtors just do handyman stuff, getting them ready to put it on the market. And that kind of grew. Eventually they were like, well, can you redo the bathroom, or can you completely redo the kitchen? And it kind of grew and grew until I then went and got my general contractor's license. So now I was able to get bigger projects. But, at that point, I was still just me and a helper. So I had to kind of grow, and that a lot of that led into sales. It was just like really doing a great job, and I wasn't making a ton of money. It was just, how can I provide the best service? And that kind of grew into what we have today, which is more of a management company than a contracting service. We don't really do a lot of the actual work. We're doing the management of it.
And when you're doing this work for the real estate agents, are they already in the homes that you're now redoing, or like essentially are they selling like the $3 to $8 million home? So you're already in that space already, right?
Yeah, and it honestly just happened just by accident. I was in one of these neighborhoods painting a house. I was like sanding a wall on the house, and there was a realtor next door who was selling another home, and it was a $2 or $3 million home. And she said, "Hey, would you mind looking at this?" And that grew into, years of service. She was actually one of the people that signed on to my general contractor's license and provided my experience. And it was just, you never know who you're going to meet that does that for you. I owe a lot of my career to this woman.
That's awesome. And when you're working with this woman, like, what is she like?
Energetic, sell. I learned a lot of sales from her. She could sell you anything, and she was able to walk into these homes and see the potential in them. She was really, really great at that, and that kind of helped me to see, like, okay, well, this kitchen could be so much more if we just did this one little thing. And she actually pointed out things like that you don't necessarily have to completely gut things to make them look a lot better. And she just really helped. I mean, nowadays we do completely gut, but she led me into just how to sell and how to be with people.
So talk to me about that, because that's something that I know a lot of the people that we talk to, they want to be in the higher end markets and they want to, go after people that have the money, but they're also very discerning with how they spend their money. So it's almost like the more that you're able to hang around and interact with your clients that you're trying to go after, the more that you're able to, empathize with them. So as you are now working with this real estate agent who's able to almost kind of take you under her wing, are you interacting with the homeowners as well? Or is it just, okay, so talk to me, I guess, about that, because essentially the more that you're able to put yourself in the shoes of the homeowner, the more you're kind of know what they want. So what did that look like in your experience?
That's exactly right. I mean, you eventually have to start mirroring the person you want to work with. And, you're going to have to clean yourself up, present yourself better, don't have the old beat up truck out front, and get into conversations with the people too. I was, I wanted to be more like them. I was even just asking them if we could have dinner or have lunch with the clients. And the realtor was kind of like, oh, that's a little weird. But a lot of these homeowners took me up on that. And, I was a young guy that just wanted to learn more from them. And you'd be surprised how many people kind of take that as like, oh, they think something nice of me. They think enough of me. And I would just do that. And I would go to dinners with them. I would even bring my girlfriend along. And it was just a way of kind of getting into that group. Because immediately when you do that, you meet their friends, you meet their family members, their colleagues. And that was, I still do that today. My biggest sales method is wining and dining, especially at this level. People care about experiences more than they care about the work. They hire me to solve a problem. So I can't bring them more problems by being a crappy contractor. So I'll take architects out to dinner. I'll buy them drinks. I'll do the same thing with the clients. Just trying to provide an experience for them.
So when you're talking about how you show up for these dinners that you're having with people, I mean, I'd imagine you're not taking them out to just Chipotle. You're going somewhere pretty nice. So were you nervous the first time? I ask because I know my little brother does this. So TJ, he is 3 years younger than me. So he's about to turn 30. But a lot of his clients are higher end where they're just either business owners or people that are further along in life. And he tells me about the conversations he has with them of almost like, hey, I'm 30. I'm trying to make it, big. What advice do you have for me? And it's these people love when they get asked what their opinion is. So when you're going to dinners with these people, for the first time, were you excited? Were you nervous? How'd you show up?
Gosh, I can't remember the first time. I probably was nervous. Nowadays, it's just another day, and I'm trying to make it fun. We do go to nice restaurants. It's on the company's tab, so we do something nice. But always asking them what went well about your project. If we've had a past project, what did we do? That is memorable to you. But I'm always asking clients just what makes a difference in a company for them. What do they have that would have them come back to that contractor, that company, whatever it is. But that's kind of a focal point of our conversations at these dinners is, it is catching up and how's the kids and all of that. But it's really like, how can we be better? Yeah.
So are you doing these dinners with them like only after the project, or is this like before the project even starts as well?
Well, for the clients, it's usually during or after. But for the architects, I'm cold calling. I'm hitting up architects that I want to work with and saying, hey, can I take you out to lunch? Can I take you out to dinner? Can I my business partner Jorge, who we just took lunch to an architect's full office. We were just like, hey, let us bring you in lunch, give you a little presentation of what we do, and that's it. And then, they've sent us a $4 million project to bid. So that's it's like, what did I pay? A couple $100 for lunch? I mean, it's such a bang for your buck. People want to see a face. They want to shake a hand. They don't just want an email saying, hey, I'm following up. I mean, it goes so far.
On the client side, when you're doing dinner, do you find that like when you're sitting there and you're like kind of like just chatting with them about how the kids and what do we do on your project, like does it start to feel like you're now being like elevated to the same like status level of them, where it's more of like a partnership versus, hey, I work for you mentality?
It is that's exactly right. I just had a client who's unfortunately going through chemotherapy right now, and he likes to shoot guns. And so I haven't talked to him in months, and he just texted me 2 days ago and said, hey, you want to go to the gun range with me? And, yeah, of course, David, let's go. And yes, I built a home for him, but I kind of relate it to this. It's like we've become part of the family. I have had the same dentist for 15 years. And once he retires, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's kind of like that. You have your barber, you have your dentist, you have your contractor, and these people, we get the Christmas cards at the end of the year. We're part of the family. And so it's not like, at this level, we're a professional just as they are,
Mm-hmm. And what does that do? So like, now that you start to feel that way with clients, a new prospect calls you up that you've never worked with before. Is that helping you when you go into that, essentially the relationship, knowing this is not like they're way superior to me and you're inferior, like you're just now trying to figure out the problems together?
It gives you a little confidence, when you're, I mean, it's a bit of leverage too. In this arena, I don't have as much competition as, say, a contractor that's doing kitchen and baths. Mm-hmm. So there's not as many luxury home builders. So these people need me more than I need them in a lot of cases. And so when we're there, we are on the same level, but I'm also selling them on, look, you're going to know me for a long time. I'm one of the few that obviously just age-wise, I'm going to be around, but also, our warranty, everything, we're going to be in your house for a long time, and we're going to make sure that we take care of you. So it does, going into it with that mindset of like, we're here to be of service to you, and we don't need you, but we can be of great service to you.
So when you're approaching, whether it's architecture firms or clients, like, do you have a certain standard of, how you dress, how you show up, how you, do you shave, like all that kind of stuff? Like, you have a way that you're like recognizing, hey, this is essentially kind of a performance throughout the whole thing. We need to show up ready to roll.
Of course. I mean, sales is all performance, and it's, you get one shot usually to really make an impression. So, and it all depends. If I go with Jorge, sometimes we'll play like, I'll have like work boots on maybe, but I'll have a nice shirt on to show that, I do show up to the job sites, and he'll have on a cardigan, and dress real nice to say that like he's your liaison that handles the office work. And so it's all a show, and it all depends where I'm going. I may put a collared shirt on. I may put one of our hoodies on. I mean, it's you really have to think about your client. Who's doing the listening over there, and how can you get into that listening?
Talk to me more about like how you make those decisions. Because I remember when we first linked up at the Remodeler Summit with RA, I remember like complimenting Jorge specifically on how he was dressed, because he was one of the best dressed people there. You guys are younger, you're good looking guys, so like that plays into it as well. But it wasn't just like, hey, we're younger, we look good, but we just have bad hygiene. I mean, like, you guys are put together. So when you're deciding the scenarios of, do you wear a hoodie versus a collared shirt versus, I don't know, if you wear a cardigan, like, do you have different times when you're like, this is when I do this versus that?
Yeah, I would say so. Initial meetings, and especially if it's newer architects, we're trying to, let's see, what are we? If it's a new home, I'm trying to show that I am competent and that I'm not just a salesperson. So especially if it's a really difficult new home, a hillside home, that's the times that I will wear my boots, and I'll bring Jorge along. And sometimes we'll even bring the superintendent along, because he's older. He looks a little gruffier, like a typical contractor. And so we're trying to sell not only management and that Ritz-Carlton touch, but we're also selling competency, that like, hey, we get our hands dirty too.
So would you say Jorge is like the management, and you and the soup would be the competency side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Jorge obviously is competent, but he handles he's their liaison. He's going to hold their hand and make sure everything's perfect.
We have a lot of clients that are like a husband and wife team, and it's usually the husband's the rough and rugged, competent contractor, if you will, and the wife is usually, because it's kind of like the husband started the business, and they're like the face of the company, but ultimately the homeowner is really working with the wife for when they call, the wife is answering the phone, and maybe the wife even does design, and essentially they have like the softer touch of like, this is going to be a great experience. And if it was just the husband doing the experience, the project would get done, but it's like the bedside manners are not always there. But because you had the wife that has like, and it's usually the homeowner wife is the one that's like driving the process from the homeowner side, it usually worked out really well, where we're like, look, you got to have your wife actually be front and center way more than you. So it sounds like you guys are doing that, where I don't want to say Jorge is the wife in the situation, but Jorge is very much he's the guy that's making sure that it's like, if you need the more, I don't know, white collar setup, he's dressed white collar, versus if you need the blue collar guy to come in and, problem solve and fix, how are we going to build this house on the side of the hill? You're coming in not in a full on suit, but you're coming in a nicely dressed, competent blue collar contractor, if you will.
Yeah, I'll still have like a tape measure on my side. It's mostly a pointer these days. I just got to play with it. But speaking of the bedside manner, it's this is one of those things that I heard a long time ago, and it just sat with me. It was talking about physicians, and ones that had better bedside manner, even if they weren't as competent, had less litigation, had less just overall issues. And so, that's what we're bringing is great bedside manner for Jorge, and then me over here with competency. So it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I remember just on the dress side, there's a guy I used to work out with. He was some sort of surgeon, but it was like an outpatient thing. And he was going to work, and he was not wearing like scrubs or anything like that. And I was like, oh, do doctors not have to wear scrubs anymore? And he was like, no, because if the doctor comes into the room for an outpatient thing with scrubs, it's way more intimidating versus if I wear a nice, in his case, I think it was like a button down or maybe like a golf polo where it was more casual. So he was like, this is now a big part of this is how you dress, how you look. And especially now that, even, doctors' offices have to get good reviews, because that will dictate, are people going to come to them or not? He was like, this is all part of the game now. It's not just how good are we at the actual procedures, but also how do we make people feel? How are we showing up? This guy was always clean shaven. Like, he came out of the gym looking like he was going to be a real estate agent, but he was really going to his office. So it was like a whole flip.
And that's really the starting point. I mean, that's the, tip of the iceberg, if you will, is like, because that's how you're showing up. But how does your jobs look? How do your vehicles look? That all plays into it. Early on, I knew I wanted to set myself apart in the neighborhoods. Okay, well, how do I make my construction site look differently? Now we have a complete standard operating procedure for just how we do our site fence and the sign. The sign, it's like, that's kind of your starting point, is having a nice sign. And I was like, okay, well, let's go down to the exotic wood store. Okay, well, we got African mahogany. Okay, we'll wrap it in that. It's going to be this size. Boom, boom, boom. There's our sign. Standard. That's going to be in every neighborhood. But now, how can we take it up another step? Construction sites look ugly. Okay, well, you can put one of those privacy fences up, but those look terrible too. Those ugly green or brown. It's like a blight on the neighborhood. And you're in neighborhoods that the minimum cost is $5 million. You don't want to be a blight on the neighborhood. So how can we take advantage of that? And I found this site, I think it's like fencescreen.com, and they make these beautiful floral coverings. And they're a little more expensive than the green one, but every job gets that put out. And then it has an entry door, just like a nice white entry door with an address on it so that the employees can go in and out. And then we have our nice mahogany sign up there. And so every site, I just had a guy yesterday approach me in the park because he saw me getting out of my truck. And he said, "Oh, you did this job. I see your fence up in another job." I said, "Yeah, that's me," because it's so recognizable. And that's the whole point of it. It's branding.
And those are the little small things that, like, it's so easy to save the, I don't know, $1 per linear foot on, get the green one versus one that looks nicer. Mm-hmm. But I mean, with your clientele, I mean, that's what they're kind of expecting, I'd imagine, right? Of like, you're not skipping any little thing. You're going all out.
Yeah, exactly. And I had to tell the guys this the other day because they had some wrinkles in the screen. I was like, get it perfectly flat, because this is our advertising. We have our target audience right here in this neighborhood. This is our advertising. So like, just make sure this is perfect. And even if it's a site that maybe we can't put a screen up, one of the site fences up, but you need a toilet out there, you need the porta potty. Same thing. We've wrapped these in mahogany or Ipe, and then we put our sign up on them so it kind of blends in, but it looks beautiful. We even got kind of artsy with the way we did the layout of the mahogany, but just all these things to step it up.
And then when you brought up like your truck and stuff like that, are you rolling around in like just a 2004 F-150, or do you have like something special?
Yeah, we have newer Tacomas. I have a 2018 TRD Tacoma that I'm driving. We've got a couple of those. But all the vehicles are relatively new, 2016 and up. I'm gonna buy me a new toy this year. I want to get a Raptor. So,
nice.
Yeah, we try to do that, and we have the same logoing on everything, just so that and we try to get the same color vehicles. It's really just, I don't know how many times you have to see a brand. I'm sure you know this better than me, but it's just that repetition of getting it, imprinting it in people's minds.
Yeah, and that's a big part of like that repetition of like your trucks or your yard signs or your, like actual fence out front, where if you're working all over the Bay Area, you may do one project in the neighborhood and that's the only time you ever do that neighborhood. So it's like you have a billboard up for maybe 2 months and then people never see it again, versus if you're sticking in the same neighborhood over and over and over. I mean, I see that in my neighborhoods of like the companies that do a good job with yard signs, where I'll see a yard sign and then 9 houses down, I'll see the exact same yard sign. So it's just like you end up becoming the builder for that whole neighborhood, because you're just like, you're set. Like you're solid there.
Yeah, and the yard signs are great, but if you can take it up a notch and have this beautiful fence that, because the construction sites are still ugly, even as clean as you make them, but you have this big, beautiful fence out there that, I mean, it really catches people's eyes.
Yeah, I know. We had a painting company come out and repaint our house this year, and they're very like tech forward. Well, they rolled up to the estimate with a wrapped Rivian, like their truck was
Hmm.
a Rivian, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like they are very like, and their whole MO is like we are technology focused, like this like they had to come out for the estimate really just because we had a whole pond put out front. So I was like, look, this is going to be a little bit more intricate because from the photos that you're going to be using, the pond isn't built yet, but it's going to go in here. So that's going to affect like the ladders and stuff. So they were like, okay, we do have to come out. But their whole MO was like, we can estimate all this stuff using all these different, I don't know, features, and we can use Google Maps and scans and all this stuff, and then actually allow you to, we upload your home and you can actually pick out the color virtually to show what it looks like, and then we take care of it from there. So their whole thing was like, we're tech focused, but they didn't then show up in some old, beat up thing. They showed up in a technology driven truck. So it was like very on brand that made it really seem like, okay, it wasn't just like a shtick that they did. It was actually, they are very tech focused. So they really backed it up with just the vehicle. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And just speaking of tech too, I mean, it's kind of, we're getting great software and all of construction industry. It's the final frontier for tech, really. We're getting a lot of it, and I've seen many contractors start doing some of the new things, but I still am using some of the older stuff for my clients. I'm getting a real bang for my buck, even in this kind of level of quality, which is group techs have still been great. We're still going through builder trend. We still have a hub to house everything. But, if you want to provide a great service, it's all about that touch for people and that regular touch. And we've been getting really great responses just from being in communication. I have one client who's in India right now, and he's actually blind. So his mother looks at all the pictures, and then another client in Tennessee. And so every day we're just updating an album for them, and that's another way to just really provide great service with kind of older tech that if you're just getting into this business and you don't want to spend $1,000 a month on whatever, it's a really great way to just be engaged with the clients.
So as you're working on these projects, I mean, you're dialed in, Jorge's dialed in, your superintendent's dialed in, but you have all these subs that, I mean, they don't directly work for you. So how do you make sure that the subs are essentially taking all the great stuff that really got the client to move forward with you guys, which is that level of attention to detail, communication, professionalism, and make sure that they embody that. So when they show up as the representative of Vought Construction, it's not a complete bait and switch.
Oh, bait and switch. That's a good. So it's, you fire them. If they don't live up to your standard, you get rid of them immediately. But you need to let them know what your standards are. We have meetings with our subcontractors saying this is what we expect on the sites. Cleanliness, and don't be smoking a bunch of cigarettes and throwing cigarette butts everywhere. Do not speak to the clients. That is one of our big things. Subcontractors, everything goes through us. So you are not allowed to speak to the subcontractors. There are some very good subcontractors that are put together, and but a lot of them, we don't want them talking to the clients. We still want them to drive nice cars. We're working with ones that do incorporate good tech in their company. They're organized. They're getting us the invoices on time, all of that. But yeah, you gotta set these standards, and if they don't live up to that, you need to cut them quick.
How do you find that balance? Because growing up, like my dad did the koi and koi pond and water feature industry, and if you ever subbed anything out, it was more of like the hardscaping, and I always just kind of assumed that because every hardscaper he ever brought in for it always did a great job, like way better than what they were able to do internally. So I just kind of figured, they're amazing at the craft, but maybe they just don't want to deal with like customers, or they're able to actually do this for way cheaper than what it would cost my dad's company to do it. So he was like, screw it, I'll just hire them, put my margin on it, and then that way it's a better product for the client. But then as I've gotten more and more into this space, by, doing CGN, it really seems like there's also a level of like, maybe not all the subs are great at the attention to detail and the actual craft itself. So you're trying to, almost seems like a balance of like, how good are they at the actual thing that we're hiring them for, but how good are their bedside manners as well? So do you have like, I don't know, like a way that you approach this with people of like, hey, you have to be a 10 out of 10 on the actual skill, but you at least have to be a 7 on the bedside manner? Or is it flipped? Or is it more of just, you kind of feel it out as you go? Like, can you walk through, I guess, how you guys determine what subs you're working with?
Skill is probably one of the most important things for our subcontractors. Because we're going to be handling the clients. We really put that out in front, with the subs, is that like, it's our job to make sure the clients are taken care of, but it's your job. So there is some bedside manner in there, just that we need to know when you're coming and going. I cannot tell a client that you're going to be there at 8:00, especially if this client's living at the house or something. If you're going to be there at 8 and you show up at 8:45 or something and leave people waiting around, they needed to take their kids and they were going to leave the door open for you or whatever it is. That's the biggest thing, is just like, they need to be communicating to me and they need to be on time. But it's competency. I just need them to do a great job, because, on these kind of projects, we're subbing everything out. And all those things that you said are pretty true, is that they do this every day and they're much better at it. And a lot of them are used to work for other companies and then they kind of became subcontractors. They're not great at dealing with clients, but we handle all that. We just want them to do great work.
So do you have like an SOP? I mean, because if, essentially if you're saying, look, we've had a lot of people and we've have fired them, are you going in going, look, these are the exact expectations, versus more of like a, hey, we need you to be professional?
No, we have expectations.
So you have it like listed out. So it's like, you're on, like, there's no miscommunication or like gray area of like, oh, when you said, be on time, I thought you just meant like show up before noon, but you actually meant show up at 8.
Yeah. So there's standards that's in our subcontract that we want them to abide by, but those are kind of blanket things, just about their presence and cleaning up and all of that. But we communicate with them about the schedule. I mean, that's one of the biggest things, is like, we just need to be in communication weeks before the project starts, during the entire time. And just really be communicating like that. But the standards that are actually written down are just kind of basic, but it's communicating with them up front about what the schedule is and what we expect on that project. Jorge does a great job of describing the entire scope of the project in the subcontract to make sure that we are getting what we want. And then the superintendent is holding their feet to the fire on the job site, saying, no, you've got to provide this.
So when you are like finished with the project, so we have great upfront during the whole process. It looks like it's a clean job site. We have these subs. When you're done with the project, you do this like party for clients, correct? Where you're like hosting something. Can you talk through that? Because like, that's something that's like, I think on paper, everybody would love to do that, but you actually do it. And we have photos on the website of people that at the house, like the music studio one that I'm referencing, like it's them having a great time, and it's actually showing them using the space, which is ultimately what people want. So can you talk a bit about the parties that you're throwing at the end of these projects?
Yeah. The clientele that we're working with, they're building pieces of art that they want to show off. So this isn't a fix and flip project where people want the lowest bidder and they just want to get it done and get you out of their house. No, this is, they want to show off. A lot of these clients, like, and as soon as I bring it up, that we want to do this, and it's in our process in the very beginning, we give them a brochure saying our exact process and what they'll have at the end. But a couple months before the end of the project, I start bringing it up, and then I ask them what dates work, and then I start talking to the neighbors. I talk to the design team. I talk to my potential clients, and I say, hey, do you want to come over? So then I've got a great friend that's a professional chef and does these caterings. He takes care of everything. He knows where to rent the furniture, where to rent all the champagne flutes. He gets all the food. He prepares something really beautifully. And you want something visually appealing, just like the house is. And so we'll bring, it could be anywhere from 30. I mean, the last one we just did was like 70 people came through this house. I don't even know where they were coming from. I think people just started walking through the house. But which is great. It's showing off our process or our projects. And it's not that expensive. Dan, this chef, and you can find chefs that will do this they'll charge about $150 an hour. You've got material costs, maybe $1,000 for champagne and some, little bites to eat. But you're talking about $2,000 to $3,000. You can put on this incredible marketing event. That you're going to get your target audience again, and then they get to get a referral right there. It's not, can you send me a referral and I shoot them off an email of somebody's number? No, they're right there. They can see the excitement in their eyes. They, and they're describing us in real time. So it's a great way to do it.
So is this? It almost sounds more like an open house that you're throwing, where it's less of like, because I was envisioning it was like this just small intimate dinner with, hey, have a couple friends over, and is it cool if we take some photos? You're almost making this like a one home parade of homes of, we're making this thing again a performance, if you will.
It's another performance. We've got a photographer there who's walking around, and it's getting people that are, and they're happy. They've got a couple drinks in them. We try to do it on a day where the weather is nice. Luckily, we get nice weather here in California. And yeah, the people are just enjoying themselves, and I'm going around shaking hands, and this is, I'm on when this is going. It's like, I'm there a couple hours early. I'm polishing faucets. I'm making this thing look great, picture perfect, and I'm making sure all the food's set. If we got music going, whatever it is, I'm also canvassing the neighborhood again, just handing out like some flyers for the party. And then when people start coming, I'm right there at the door. Hey, how's it going? I'm Devon Vought. I'm the contractor. Boom. It's just, it's performing.
And are all the homeowners like cool with this? Like, does anybody ever go, no, we just don't want that?
Not once. Not once.
Really?
Yeah, I've never had. I mean, I say, hey, look, we've been in this neighborhood for a year now, maybe longer. We've been a complete nuisance on the neighborhood just with trucks and, construction is an inconvenience. So what better way all the neighbors have been, poking their heads in, like, well, let's invite them in. Let's just invite them in. And if you have any friends that you would like to bring, I'll pay for everything. It'd be a nice time to just like, this is it. We finished, and let's celebrate. And that's what it is. It's a celebration. We're trying to provide end-to-end experience. How can we, I always sign contracts in person because it's I don't know. It's like an important thing. We're about to go into a marriage together. Like, let's sign this together. Jorge will bring him a bottle of champagne or a bottle of wine at the contract signing. And, from start to finish, that's what we're trying to do.
That's cool. This is all the stuff that, like, I think real estate agents do a really good job of, where I guess, you that's what you started, was that. But I know with like our real estate agent here in Charlotte, like, she is now, we have referred her. People in our office have used her. I even bring her in like once a year to talk to our team about client relationship stuff. But she is on it for the whole thing. But you get the bottle of champagne at the end of it. And, we just celebrated 3 years in our house. And I know that because I got a gift 3 years in with a letter, Nice. So it's like, it's so dialed in.
Well, to speak to that, so that's the touch I'm talking about. It's that 3 year. You might not be in a market now, but when you do go back into the market, who are you going to call? And so that's why I get a lot of flack from other contractors about our warranty. And it's like, it's not even that big of a deal. You should be providing a good warranty. Stand behind your work. But, ours is set up in a way that we're going to send somebody every quarter. And then we have reminders to follow up with these clients every quarter. And a lot of times they don't even have stuff for us, but it's that touch. And then when, say, it's a couple years down the line and they do have like a crack that comes up, I get to go back into their house. I get to do me again. I get to sell. I get to sell. How are you doing? Do you have any upcoming projects? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, I want to add some square footage, or think of buying another home.
So when you're doing these parties for people, are you doing it for like, it's only on new builds, or it's only on full house remodels, or is it also like, I know you don't do small projects, but like if you just did like the primary bathroom, you're then doing a whole party where you're like, hey, make sure you guys go check out that bathroom in there. Like, we got music going. Like, I guess, how do you determine when to throw these parties versus not?
No, we're pretty explicit about that in our process, because we don't actually, I don't think we say housewarming, but we say like some kind of, we're going to do something at the end. And a lot of times it is just dinner. Like I just went out to dinner with a client and an architect, and Jorge and I took them out to I don't know, a sushi restaurant or something. But it was really just like, hey, we got through it, and this wasn't a large project. I mean, maybe it was $100,000 or $200,000, I don't know, something like that. But it was, and we spent a few $100s on dinner, and just again, it doesn't have to be huge. You can, I've been trying to figure out, we've been doing the Google album where you print out the book and you just get a hard copy of the process. And especially if you had the housewarming, you can do that. But it can be small like that. It can just be like, hey, here's the memories of, this process, or just a gift basket. It's just something nice. So
are you like taking photos during this process and then putting together like a hard copy of the project for them?
Yeah. As I said prior, in the very beginning, we just give them a Google Outlook. Like, this is the link. Here you go. And so in the very beginning, I take before pictures of everything. And then every day, me, the superintendent, project manager, are putting photos in that. And then I'll fly the drone and take drone pictures throughout the project too. But at the end of the project, and if we have a housewarming or whatever, we'll, or if we have the photographer come take professional pictures, we'll then go back through the album and just take select few. I mean, this album can have 1,000 pictures really quick. So we're just taking select few and giving them a little hardbound album. And sometimes, like, I've even printed out that one that you did on the site. I think you have the picture of the client on there and the husband and wife. I printed that out for them and framed it because it was a nice picture. Mm-hmm. So just something like that. Being thoughtful.
Yeah, I know the hardbound thing that we had when we had Nick from NS Builders on. He talked about that, of like wanting to do that piece, and I was like, that's such a good just coffee table item that it shows the story of it. I mean, like, you're not going to throw it away because it's a hard copy. I mean, you very easily could just print off like a flip book that's like, soft, but you're making it nice. And it's almost like, I remember we talked about this before, but the whole gifting thing of like, if you're going to get a gift, make sure it's like a nice gift versus, I remember I got back early on, like my dad's pawn company, all tickets to the Capitals hockey game. And at first I was like going to buy just like the nosebleeds because I was like, oh, this is like, it's feasible. Like, I'm new in business, but I was like, screw it. Like, I'm going to get them a box because it's so stupid to like either don't get the tickets or get the box. Like, but if you just check the quote unquote, check the box of like, well, I got you tickets. And they're like, yeah, well, these are terrible tickets. We would have rather just, taken the money, off the next bill versus had this experience. It was a whole different scenario. So like, you go, like, it's all those little touches, it sounds like, that you're doing over and over and over that really build up what Vought Construction is all about and why you get those referrals.
Yeah, and we're even trying to do it with the employees, because money is one thing, but talking to the employees, like, do you want to take your family to Disneyland? Like, what is it that we can do for an experience that you'll remember? Because like that book, I went to a client's house that we finished their project like a year and a half ago. and we went to check on something, I don't know, some warranty work, and they were out of town, and the book I got them is next to their bed.
That's awesome.
The photo album's there, and it's got a picture of them two on the front, and it's like, that's I mean, how much did that cost me? $25-$50? It's so worth it. So yeah, it's all about the touches. It's really about experiences. How can you give them something memorable?
And then on that party, like, we kind of like just like grazed over it, but we're not just bringing Dan the chef in. You brought up, he's bringing furniture in, champagne flutes. Can you kind of set the scene for like, all right, I walk into this house, I shake hands with Devon Vought, the builder, and then what is it like? Like, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? Like, am I walking into like a club where we got, some house music going on? Like, what does that look like?
No, definitely not with my clientele. It's not a club, but yeah, it's I'm there with a smile, greeting them, letting them. I give them a brief description of the house, like, hey, this is what it is. As soon as they walk in, it's soft music, it's background music, and there's usually some smells in the air from the food, so it's inviting. I'll give them a real quick tour because there might be somebody coming in behind them, but I'll tell them like what we did and maybe a challenge of the project or whatever, and they usually have some stories because they were the neighbor or they were the friend, and so I'll give them a little speech, but then they walk in, and usually so what Dan does, and there's these companies everywhere that they'll rent really nice stuff, really nice charcuterie boards and really nice dining ware and crystal. I mean, nice tables, tablecloths, everything. So you can set this up, and it's relatively cheap. I mean, you can rent these things for a few $100s for the day, and then you just take them back, all the plates, everything. And so when they walk down, they see there's this smorgasbord of great food, and it's always beautiful. And yeah, then they get to walk around. It's just a party, man. They get to have fun with their friends. A lot of times they'll bring their spouses, so it's free food, it's free drinks, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. My leads last year were only about 32 leads. That's going to shock a lot of builders because, my group of an RA, they are getting 300-400 leads a year. But we're taking a more delicate approach with it. We don't want a bunch of tire kickers. So just an estimate a project like this, we do charge for the estimates, but you could spend up to $5,000 to $10,000 on an estimate.
All right, so there you have it, right from Devon Vought, who's younger in the space, doing the luxury end, projects. But I think my big takeaways from this is I've always been a firm believer in like the more that you hang out with your ideal client, like the more you understand what they think, what's important to them. So it feels more of like a partnership in the projects that you're doing together. And that's essentially how he started, was getting into this market, working with that real estate agent that knew all the movers and the shakers and stuff like that. So I'd say that was probably the biggest takeaway for me, was just really making sure that the more that you hang out with who you want to work with, the more that you're going to be seen as that same level and being seen as like a trusted partner, not well, you're just my contractor type deal. So I loved it. If you want to be more in this luxury market, that's really where it sounds like you have to start. If you want to check out, on the side note, Vaught's website, we talk about it a lot. It's just, if you go to Google, type in Vought Construction, VOUGHT, you'll see it right there. And we'll even put the link to the website in the show notes. But that's been our podcast today. Super cool episode. I appreciate Devon for coming in, and we'll see you on the next episode.